Welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts with CPA and personal financial specialist, Phil Putney. Now let's get rolling with today's show. Back for another edition of Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts. And Phil, it's time to react to YouTube's biggest video last year for retirement. You and I can have a conversation about this video that got 3.7 million views.
Okay.
On
caught a couple of views,
pretty hefty, yeah. On sell these 5 things before you retire. So that was the video. In case you want to go check it out, we'll put links in the description. Somebody wants to go watch it themselves, they can certainly do that. And we thought it was worth a conversation, not to rip it apart or anything like that, but just to react honestly about. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What is it that you see in your practice for, the last number of, you've been doing this many years now. So you've probably seen these questions, many times where I had to work through them with people. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through and just kind of get your reaction to the 5 things that this video really talked about.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Number 1, the oversized house.
Okay.
This one's pretty standard. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, this is a pretty common discussion that we have, right? You've got the 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom colonial, whatever it is, that you've raised the kids in, and now they're all hopefully gone. They're on their own and doing their own thing, and you just don't need all that space anymore. And
right. So to sell it or not sell it,
have a bedroom on that upper floor, and you're looking to get on a single level. You want that range. So yeah.
And a lot of people, and again, the point of this video was to say, sell it, right?
Yep.
Because it's going to free up significant equity, especially in the current real estate market. You're probably going to get a lot for it, but you do still have to plan, right? You still have to have a strategy, because where are you going to live? Because if you're buying something else, well, that's also expensive too, right? So
I was going to say that, and that's the interesting discussion for this one specifically that a lot of times we run into is that when you start to run the math, it's not, even though you might have a lot of equity, it might not play out exactly like you think, because number one, I mean, everything's inflated from real estate. So yeah, you might get a, pretty good price in your current home, but even downsizing, well, the reality is you're probably not going to get as much as you think. There's not going to be that much of a price differential. I mean, unless you're like going down to a condo or something really drastic, right? But if you're going from a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom colonial down to even a 2 or 3-bedroom ranch, the reality is you're not going to have a huge price difference typically, unless you're in different neighborhoods. I mean, it raises a whole other scenario.
But if you're trying to raise capital for your retirement, selling it and maybe going to a condo or a townhouse could be an option. Although they're pretty darn expensive too. So
they're expensive too. And the thing that often people miss in this transaction is at least in Michigan, the way it works is the reset of property taxes. So in Michigan, how property taxes work is that you're grandfathered in under what they call the Headley Amendment. Our property taxes can only go up a certain percentage each year. It's a pretty small percentage.
Yeah, didn't Florida just pass something like that? I think they did.
Well, yeah, they're actually talking about getting rid of property taxes.
Oh, yeah, true, yeah.
But yeah, so in Michigan, it is very commonplace for you to have a house you've been in 20, 30 years where your property taxes you're paying are probably less than half of what they should be if that house was sold today. So our new owner, when they buy it, it gets all reestablished based on that price. Well, so if you sell and purchase something even less expensive, very often your property taxes are going to take a significant increase because now you've lost that grandfathered base of property tax.
Good point.
You're resetting. So it's a lot of decisions when you're looking at that downsizing, which again, and not say don't do it, absolutely consider it. And it's, even with those, a lot of times it's still the right decision. But
yeah, so sell these 5 things being the topic of the video. Certainly makes sense that it's on the list, but as with everything, run the information,
run the numbers, and understand all sides.
And take into the emotional account too. But for sure, but definitely get the math side of it. Number 2, I think we're both going to agree with this one. Selling the item here. Right. Sell supporting those adult children, financially supporting those adult children. It's a tough instinct for some people to kick, but you gotta cut the cord, as the saying goes, because the argument is your adult children have decades to build their own financial security where you don't anymore, right?
Yeah, time to kick the birdie out of the nest, so to speak, and let them kind of grow their wings and figure it out. So,
and I'm sure you still see this pretty often where people, it's like, how much can you help, and should you?
Yeah, I mean, that gets into a whole nother, should you in the scenario. And this a lot of times is a kind of can be tension and discussion between the spouses. One really wants to help. The other one's like, look, we can't afford it. What are we doing?
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like anything, it's a financial decision that you need to understand. What is it doing? So if you're supporting your adult child and it's, $1,000 a month, 500, whatever it is, I mean, just think of it. Is that something you want to build into your budget for the rest of your life?
And if you can,
how long is it going to be there? Right.
Right. I mean, I guess that first and foremost, I guess the question should be, do we do it, and can we do it? Right. I mean, can we do it without putting ourselves in a bad position?
Right.
And I think, unfortunately, that's where a lot of people go wrong, because we love our kids, but we do it to our own detriment.
Right. Well, and that's really the point of all this is, again, like I've said many times, my goal is never to tell you what to do. It's to say, here's the options, right? So if we run the math and you're supporting your adult child, then, it's whatever the cost is, $500, $1,000 a month, and it works. I'm not here to tell you don't do it. If you're comfortable and want to do it, then do it. It's your retirement. It's not mine.
Right.
But if we're running the math and it's not working out, and we start to look at, well, how do we make it work? Well, okay, here's where the rubber meets the road.
We got to cut that line. Yeah, we got to cut that line item, right?
I'm not saying do it, but this is the reality. This is one of the expense items on your list. Is that where you want to continue to spend? What are you going to give it up? What else are you going to give up for that to continue to happen?
Sure.
So,
good point.
And a lot of times this can kind of play into that first decision of, I've got the oversized house. Well, you know what? If you move to a 2-bedroom house where, we just don't have the room anymore, we've got to downsize, and it can kind of maybe spur them on to that next move themselves.
That's a good point. So. Yeah. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Number 3 on this list, Phil, is the expensive toys that become expensive burdens. Mm-hmm. We were just talking about the fact that, the RV market blew up during COVID, and now everybody's trying to sell RVs. But, the boat, whatever the case might be, at some point you kind of start to go, and I think maybe with age just comes do we really need all this crap?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, having all these toys is fun, right? I mean, it's enjoyment and whatever, but at the end of the day, with the toys come expenses, and just, it's a job too, right? I mean, you've got an RV, you've got to maintain it. There's things you have to do. Same thing with boats or whatever the toy is. And it's one of those decisions that, again, if the math works and it's still something you really enjoy and you want to do it, then do it. But if you're starting to look at some of these things and maybe you're looking at retirement and saying, we're just way too busy doing maintenance stuff. We've got a house up north, we've got a place here, we've got the RV and the boat. And, I'm spending all the time just running back and forth maintaining things. And I want to do something different and maybe do some travel and enjoy.
Very true.
Okay, well, here's something to look at. How much time do you spend using those? I mean, that's where I would start with, like, toys, the boats and the RVs.
Yeah, big time.
It's fun to have, but so how many times did you put the boat in the water, right?
Yeah.
And if we
haven't used it in 3 years, well,
if you start running the math and realizing, okay, well, it cost me, $10,000, whatever it is to have that boat this year between insurance and gas and, if you're paying on it still or whatever it is, and you took it out one time, that's a pretty expensive boat trip.
Very true.
So
you could rent one for much cheaper.
You could rent it for a lot cheaper than that.
The Tax Smart Retiree is your comprehensive guide to mastering tax efficiency for a flourishing retirement. You will find indispensable advice and actionable strategies designed to enhance tax savings, maximize Social Security benefits, protect against market volatility, and develop a customized retirement plan. To get your free ebook, click the link in the show notes of today's episode and download your copy of the Tax Smart Retiree right now.
All right, so of the 3 items so far, the advisor in you, 3.7 million people felt it was worthwhile to watch and say, yeah, maybe I should sell these things. Would you put those on the list that you would say, let's consider that, Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the houses that comes up more often than not, just because you're at that stage of life where you need to make a change, just because of health, health reasons.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Number 4. The second car. Now, this one I find interesting.
Yeah.
With the argument being, with no longer having the work commute, 2 cars sitting in the garage becomes an expense that maybe they could sell and add a little bit more to the retirement bottom line, insurance, maintenance, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
However, Cars equal freedom for most Americans. It is something that is ingrained into our DNA since the great car explosion of the 40s.
Yep.
All right. Highway system and all that stuff. You have, if you have any friends that live overseas, they will tell you that one of the most interesting things they love about America is when they come here, they just want to drive.
Everyone drives everywhere. Yeah.
Not that you can't drive in Europe, but you can drive for 2 hours and be in 3 countries. And have to go through checkpoints, where here you can drive for 3 days and nothing changes. But anyway, the point being is, this one feels like a lot, maybe even more emotional than a house in some ways, Phil, because it's like, hey, if I'm sick to death of looking at my significant other and I want to get in the car and go somewhere and I can't because I no longer have that transportation, that might be a tough pill.
Right. Yeah. So to me, I would put this in almost that toy category of, I don't want to call it a luxury, but if at the end of the day you're trying to figure out how do we make this work and we have to make cuts. Yeah, this could be one of those items, but I think it's probably going to be pretty low on the list because
it's pretty close to
freedom is, I can't imagine having one car that we're both trying to split because, okay, well, she's over watching the grandkids and what if I wanted to run up to Home Depot?
Or have to run somewhere.
What do? I'm stuck. I've got to wait till she gets home I would think of it back to, and I don't know if you as a teen growing up, maybe you had to share a car with the siblings, right? And it's like, no, he got it first. It's kind of that same scenario. You guys are fighting over the car. Who's going to, do you have a list of saying, well, I checked it out in this time? And,
True. Well, I mean, while it might be technically a luxury item, I think it definitely borders on a necessity in the modern world. Yeah. But depending on where you live too, Phil, like if you're living in a metropolis, you're in a metropolis and you can walk a lot of places, then that's fine. But I think America is so large. Like where I live, I mean, it's 5 minutes by car to get to a tiny little convenience store, so by on foot, that would take a bit. Right. So, but I mean, to get into town, it's like 15 minutes. So you have to drive. Like our country is pretty large.
It's designed for cars for sure.
If I was sitting down with an advisor and we were having to make cuts, I'm with you on that. I'd be like, this needs to be way at the bottom of the list to cut. Yeah, we need to find some other things
first.
Anything
else working? We still need extra. Well, okay, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I say, if she was watching, it'd be funny when I say, "Let's cut the funds to the kid first." She's probably like, "Hey, what?
That's
right. Sorry, you're an adult. You can take care of that stuff yourself. I need that car."
So. It's all about negotiations at this point.
That's right.
Hey, we need, which one are we going to cut? So.
All right, well, the fifth one on the list, Phil, is one that can't be sold on eBay. And this was kind of interesting. It's who you are. It's your work identity, right? The argument is that clinging to your professional self is hard to let go of for many people, clearly, right? And so the most successful retirees don't necessarily recreate who they were at work. They got to create who I am now. You know?
Well, and I mean, I have this discussion all the time with clients that are looking towards retirement. Everyone wants to retire, right? But I always say, well, what are you going to retire to? What does that look like? Start to think that through today and understand what is that vision for retirement for you. Even if your identity is your work today, it's probably going to be very hard for you just to retire and walk away and sit at home. And especially if you were so wrapped up in work, you don't even have a lot of hobbies.
Right.
So now what are you going to do? Because you're no longer working.
Right.
So I mean, this can be a hard one to let go, and you don't necessarily have to let go of it either. I mean, if you're at a position that you can't afford to retire and you're done with that career, but you really still love what you did, there are many avenues that you can use that knowledge and experience in helping in charitable, where you don't have to get paid, or even working. I mean, there's a lot of places you could use that to get paid even something maybe less, where the stress isn't there. You can use your experience. They'd be glad to have your experience, and you can still then gain that identity and the feeling, of value, that I've contributed something to society. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, the video finishes with these 3 questions, and I'm just going to cover 2 of them right this second, Phil, because I think they're really pretty pertinent. I want to get your take on it as well. And basically just ask yourself this, right? does this still serve one of these 5 items, or any item, I guess, if it's even not on this list, but does this still serve my new life, or is this serving my new life, or is it serving my old life? So I think that's a fair question that many retirees have to ponder. And then the second one would be, if I let this thing go, what becomes possible? What else could I do? Right. I think those are pretty good questions for this.
I would agree. I mean, I think especially that last one helps, right? Because no one likes to cut things and let go of things. But if you're running through the math and realizing that, I'd really like to travel,
right?
But, and do some more travel in that scenario, but the budget just doesn't allow it. But I have these toys that at the end of the day, we do, we go out on the boat a couple of times. We take the RV out 2 or 3 times a year. But you know what? If I got rid of those, we had now the funds available to do the travel.
Potentially.
Well, so there's a decision to make, right? So that to me helps kind of reframe. It's not, you're just not blatantly getting rid of things. It's
right.
Wow,
yeah.
What's
I like that as well. If I let it go, what becomes possible? That's good.
What does it open up? What are the options now? So
it's great. Yeah. Would you add anything extra? Would you add an extra question from your experience?
No, I mean, those are pretty typical, especially like the last one, the work identity is probably the hardest one. I mean, that obviously, like you said, you can't sell. It's not like it's something that you can get rid of.
Right.
But to me, it is probably one of the more pertinent pieces of retirement for some people. There are those that I work with, many of them still, that, and I've talked about them on the show many times, that they could have retired years ago, but they just never have, because they kind of enjoy what they do still. And even though it's stressful and whatever else,
they're just afraid.
They're so tied up into that identity of, this is who I am.
Yeah, for sure.
That what am I going to do if I don't do this? So,
well, and I think the word sell in this video, these 5 things, and you go, well, how do I sell who I was? You're not. You replace sell with let go. How do I let go business me so that I can now enjoy being retired me? Right. So we'll leave it with that, right? I mean, 3.7 million people watched this video for a reason. It touched on something that resonated. Sure. So retirement isn't just about the things we've accumulated. Sometimes it's also about what we are okay with letting go of, right?
Yep.
And that's worth thinking about no matter where you are in your journey. So if you need some help on the math side, certainly reach out to a qualified professional. But don't forget, it's not just the math. They've helped hundreds. Any advisors usually helped a lot of people retire. So they've thought about the philosophical and the emotional questions, or dealt with them as well. So get some time on the calendar. That's all you got to do to see what's the situation for you is correct. And Phil can help you with that. Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts is the podcast, of course, but you can go to his website, philstaxhacks.com. That's philstaxhacks.com. Hit the like, the thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff, so you catch new episodes when they come out on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And of course, click on one of the links below to get started with some help. And with that, we're going to do it for this week. And if you guys, 3.7 million of you want to watch this video, that'd be fine too. We'll be all right with that.
There we go.
All right, my friend. We'll see you next time here on the podcast with Phil Putney from Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts.
Phil?
Investment advisory services offered through AFS Wealth Management. The content of this program is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. Investments and/or investment strategies involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will achieve its objectives.